Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. Appreciate you guys being in here. Look, we got a good show here for you guys today. We are counting down the Big 12's best quarterbacks, or who we think are going to be the quarterbacks, because there's still some position battles for a few of these schools. So we're going to count those down from 16 to 1 in the order that I believe are the best quarterbacks. So should be fun. Appreciate you guys being in there. Before we get started, remember, as always, remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments section, and always hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Big 12 Insiders content comes out. So appreciate that. Look, should have some fun. Not going to agree on all of these, which is great. Let me know in the comments section. Let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. So at 16, look, Oklahoma State. I put Oklahoma State because, is it going to be Haas? I think it's Hine. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, somebody just crush me. Haas Hine, I believe that's how it's pronounced, or Zane Flores. Now, Flores, neither one of them have a ton of experience. Flores, got hurt last year, hasn't played. Hine, was a transfer from TCU, is a runner. We'll see what he does in fall camp. I'm going to lean Flores just because he's been in the program a little bit longer, and I think he's a little bit more of an accomplished thrower. Maybe. Who knows? But either way, I got him at 16 because we really don't know a whole lot about either one of these guys as far as being a quarterback. We also know that Oklahoma State, I don't think it's even going to be decided in fall camp, because we've seen Oklahoma State go into the season. They did it in 2023. You didn't know who their quarterback was going to be. It took weeks before they even had a decision made. So now it's a little different this year. You're going to Oregon week 2, but I don't think that matters to Mike Gundy. He's going to find the guy, and however long it takes, that's however long it takes. But at 16, we've got the Oklahoma State quarterbacks for now. At 15, I've got Taven Jackson. I've got a little experience. He played at Indiana, started a little bit in 2023, came in, played some, ended up losing his job to Brendan Sorsby. So we'll see what happens with him. He's transferring to UCF right now. I think he's still got to win the job. It's definitely a competition. Cam Fancher and Ja'Cory Brown. And Ja'Cory Brown did some good things last year, but just not throwing the football. Did a lot of good things running the football. We'll see. I think Jackson is probably the guy to beat there. But as of now, he is 15 in the conference. At 14, West Virginia quarterback. Look, my man Nico Markel, and again, if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, slash me my tires. I apologize. I think he's the leader just for the simple fact that he's been there, popular in the locker room. Now, does he have some competition for the job? Yes, he does. Jalen Henderson, a guy coming from Texas A&M, who knows? Rich Rod coming in there. Maybe he goes with the guy that's popular, or maybe he just says, you know what? I'm going with the guy that's going to give us the best chance to win, that can run my offense the way that I want it run. I believe that's what Rich Rod is going to do. I don't think this battle is settled. I don't think it's going to be settled until right before the season starts. I think that's how long it's going to go. But either one of those two quarterbacks, I have them at 14 right now. 13, Connor Wegman out of Houston. Former 5-star, good quarterback, but, inconsistent, and injuries have that's what plagued him at Texas A&M. Gets a fresh start at Houston. I think that's a good thing for him, especially since Houston – look, I said it before. I thought Houston would have won 2 more games last year if they just had a quarterback that was competent. They just didn't have that all season last year and weren't able to compete in some of the games where their defense was actually playing pretty well. So he gives them that opportunity. Now, does he have to improve his consistency? Yes, he does. Does he have to stay healthy? Yes, he does. I mean, obviously we don't blame people for getting hurt, but if you can't stay healthy, they can't count on you. So I think this is a fresh start, fresh opportunity. But right now, I've got him at number 13. Now at 12, this one, Caden Salter from Colorado. Look, good year in 2023. Took a step back in 2024 at Liberty. So we'll see what happens. We heard a lot of inconsistencies in the passing game coming out of the spring. So for me, look, I'll just say this, and I'll be the first to say, maybe I'm not the first to say it. I think by week 6, 7, Julian Lewis is going to be the starting quarterback. They put a lot into this kid. He's really good. He's the future. Depending on where Colorado's season is, I think Julian Lewis is going to be the starter by that time frame. That's not hating on anybody. That's not wishing that Salter's not any good or anything like that. That's just where I see Colorado's season. That's where I see it headed. And I think they're going to need a shot in the arm to be able to get going. And I think the youngster is going to be able to provide it. But right now, I've got Caden Salter at number 12. And number 11, maybe a little far down for some people, but I think this is warranted. Jalen Daniels out of Kansas. Look, it just did not work last year. It didn't. Now, you can say offensive coordinator issues. I would agree with that. Putting the ball in his hands more often when you have a solid running game that's doing exactly what you want a running game to do, but then you still turn around and throw the football when you have a struggling quarterback. At some point, somebody's got to do something about that. And they never did. And they struggled. Lost games that they should have won, couldn't finish. Some of that's on the defense, don't get me wrong. But Jalen Daniels wasn't good last year. And you can't even say, well, go back to 2023. Well, he was hurt. He only had, I think it was 75 attempts in 2023. So we're going back to 2022, Jalen Daniels, on when he was last that good. Well, okay, that's fine. But he's got to find that. He's got to get back to that football player. Because what we saw last year, that wasn't good enough. And it cost the Jayhawks their season. Now, it wasn't all on him. I'm not trying to put all the blame on him. But he was the one throwing the interceptions. So he has to take some blame for that. Put in bad situations by his offensive coordinator? Yes. But we'll see. But Jalen Daniels at number 11. Number 10, Noah Fafita. I'm still trying to figure out that Fafita was good in 2023. Last year, probably took a step back, even though he had an outstanding receiver, T-Mac, got drafted in the first round in the NFL. The bottom line is his decision-making wasn't very good last year. Now, part of that is you get a new coach, new offensive coordinator, and things change. Second year in the system, I would suspect that he is better, but he's got to get back to what he was in 2023 if Arizona is going to have any semblance of a good football team this year. I'm not sure that they are going to have that, but maybe it won't be all his fault. But either way, he's got to get back to that. He's at 10. He's a talented guy. But again, last year, just too inconsistent. I think trying to do too much in certain situations. And a lot of guys do that, trying to score 28 points with one throw, which we all know that's not possible. But sometimes kids get in their head and think they can do it all, and you just can't do it all. So needs to get back to that 2023 football player that we saw and played well for Arizona. And number 9, Jake Reslef. Now, here's the thing. In clutch situations last year, he was really good. Nothing comes to mind more to me than that Oklahoma State win where they came from behind and basically the last 2 plays of the game, just phenomenal football play. But down the stretch, he wasn't very good. BYU fans will tell you that, 5 picks, 2 touchdown passes in the last 5 games. And some of that play got masked because BYU was really good, which that's part of having a good football team. You got to be able to play complementary football, pick up where your brethren may be lacking. And they did that. But he's got to be better. Now, I'm not getting into any of the off the field stuff. That's a different conversation for a different day. But if he's there, he's got to be better. He's got to be more consistent than what he was. I'm not saying he played bad or anything like that, but BYU fans will tell you. I mean, those are very educated football fans. They understand he's got to be better. He's got to be better. For them to go to where they're trying to go, he has to be better down the stretch where he struggled a little bit last season. So right now I have him at 9. At number 8, I have Brendan Sorsby. Look, I think Sorsby played better than UC fans thought that he was going to. I think they thought that he would be okay, but I think they were pleasantly surprised by what he was able to put out there, which is a good thing, considering all the offensive linemen that got hurt for Cincinnati, which is insane. But he was still able to put together a pretty good season. Now, I know down the stretch, Cincinnati kind of poo-pooed the bed. I don't think that was all his fault, but he was pretty consistent. I will say this. To get to where they need to go this year, he's got to take a step forward. He's got to continue to get better with his decision-making, but I think he will. He's got that ability. Just a solid quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. Cincinnati has a really solid quarterback, and if he can continue to progress, this season might end up being what Cincinnati Bearcat fans want it to be. We will see. At number 7, Barrett Morton. Now, he threw for a ton of yards, over almost 3,400 yards, 33, 35, I believe. Yes. But a lot of those, they were Shedeur Sanders and him were almost tied as far as the average yards per pass. So basically they're throwing the ball really short routes and getting the ball out in space and letting wide receivers do their thing. Now, that's part of the offense. You can't blame a quarterback for that. If you're throwing the ball either at the line of scrimmage or behind it or short passes and guys are doing their thing, then they're just doing their thing. That's not his fault. But what I think is this season, he's got to be more aggressive down the field, and the offense has to allow him to be more aggressive down the field. Now, maybe that's not their style. Maybe they're not going to do that. But when you're without Taj Brooks, I think no more teams may want to play the pass this season against Texas Tech and defend it that way. Well, maybe you got to take more chances down the field, But again, if that's not Tech's offense and you're trying to force him to do something that he doesn't, that he's not comfortable with, or you as a team aren't comfortable with, well, then Tech doesn't need to do that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Tech is going to be picked by a lot of people to win a lot of football games. And then he's going to be right in the middle of this. I've got Morton's at number 7. At number 6, now this one, like I said, this one is going to be controversial. Devin Dampier. Now, the thing about it is he hasn't played in the Big 12 before. He had 12 interceptions last year. I mean, so it wasn't great. I mean, 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 2,700 yards at New Mexico. His offensive coordinator's coming over with him to Utah. Look, I get it. He didn't play Power 5 football. I understand that. Or Power 4 football, excuse me. But that's okay. I mean, you can still see talent where talent is. And him having a grasp of the offense, it's one thing to transfer and have to learn an entire new offense. But when you transfer and the offense is the exact same thing that you were running previously, well, that, number one, gives him a leg up on everything, and he's able to teach other guys certain stuff. But it's also going to make him more comfortable when the bullets start flying. Again, don't take that personally. Maybe I'll rephrase that. When the games start. How about that? Because some people got on me when I was talking about war and bullets, and I'm like, man, we're just talking football here, so I apologize. Either way, I like it. I think he's got the chance being dropped into that program at Utah. I think he's got a chance to be special. I know there's people that are going to think he's way too high on this list, but maybe you haven't seen him play. Just turn on a highlight film and go watch the kid. He's special. He can do some things, and being in a better overall program, I think, is going to help him with his consistency. But he can't throw all those picks. I will say that. 12 picks, a lot of picks. Can't do that, because if you turn the ball over in the Big 12, I don't care how good your defense is, and Utah's defense is good, you're going to pay the price for that. So he's got to cut that down, but right now I have him at number 6. And number 5, I have Rocco Beck. I like Beck. I think he's a good football player. I think he's gotten better. He's gotten better from the first year that he started until now. He has made tremendous strides. Yes, he was helped by having 2 day 2 picks as wide receivers. Yes, that absolutely helps you. But somebody had to throw him the football, and you look at his completion percentage, 59%. Well, they were throwing the ball down the field. So, and yes, I understand there's some people that don't like, hey, you can't measure a quarterback by completion percentage. I'm like, yeah, you can. And then there's other people that says, well, you look at his percentage and it was terrible. I go, well, he was throwing it down the field, so it's a little high risk, high reward type of thing. So it lies somewhere in the middle. 59%, though, is not going to cut it. Not this year with the talent that they've lost. They're going to have to be better in that regard. And I think he wants to be, and I think he will be. But again, losing those 2 guys, you can't measure that, but I think they'll replace. I'm not saying they're replacing the talent, but they are replacing and maybe the production to an extent. That's what I'll say. But I think Rocco's got to take a step in, you know what? Maybe we're not taking as many chances down the field. Maybe we're going to take this play versus going down the field, because I knew if I threw it down there to those guys, a lot of times they're going to come up with the ball. Where now it's like, let me take this safer pass, and just keep the chains moving, things of that nature. I think that's his next progression as a quarterback. I have him at number 5. And number 4, Josh Hoover. I like Josh Hoover. Instrumental in the 6 out of the 7 games that TCU won down the stretch when pretty much everybody, including myself, had left them for dead. Played really good football. Threw for an amazing amount of yards, 3,900, 3,949. Now, I know TCU throws it a lot, so, he should throw for a lot of yards. But you got, 66%. He's completing passes, people, down the field. 27 touchdowns. I like him. Now, he's not a real mobile guy. He is your prototypical pocket passer. But that's okay. That's okay. If he has time, he can pick you apart. But here again, another guy who's bringing in more different receivers, because he too lost 2 wide receivers to the NFL draft this past year. So we'll see what he does. And again, he's a person that made another leap. A lot of quarterbacks in this league made huge strides and big leaps. Josh Hoover's one of those. Second year as the guy, we'll see. Or second year, another year as the guy, being the man. We'll see what he does. I like Josh Hoover. I really like him. At number 3, Avery Johnson. Look, a dual threat. Avery Johnson, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, another 600 yards rushing. But any Kansas State fan will tell you, we love Avery, but he's got to be more consistent. 58% completion percentage is not going to cut it. That's not where they're throwing the ball, 30, 40 yards down the field all the time. That's not the case. Avery's deal is he has to start anticipating throws. He just has to play the quarterback position better. He played it good last year. He just needs to get better. But hell, it was his first year starting. I think a lot of people think, hey, just because you come out and, you're highly touted and there's no maturation process. You have to immediately be a finished product as soon as you step on the football field. That's not the case, man. There's room to grow. And Avery Johnson has room to grow. He still has room to grow. Does he need to take that next step? Absolutely. But for people to say that he had a down year last year, I don't think that was the case. Maybe it wasn't up to expectations, but maybe the expectations were a little bit too high. But he does need to work on anticipating throws, getting the ball out early, understand that, hey, you don't have to throw it when a guy is open. Anticipate when a guy is open. I think that's his next step in being one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12 Conference, is being able to anticipate those throws. So I've got him at 3 right now. 2, Sawyer Robertson out of Baylor. Part of that amazing turnaround. And he plays complementary football because Baylor can run the football, but when they need to throw it, Sawyer Robertson is that guy. 30,000 yards last year, 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Phenomenal year. And again, didn't start the year as the starter. And I think that's what a lot of people like. He wasn't the guy at the beginning of the year. He ended up winning the job or getting the job by default and kept the job and just took off and ran with it. Well, good for him, and I like what he brings to the table. Baylor's going to be very good this year. And if he takes the next step as a quarterback, look out. I'm just telling you, people, look out. I think not a lot of people are talking about Baylor. I think that's a mistake. I'll be quite honest with you. There's not that many people that are talking about how good Baylor can be. I think you need to start talking about it. And Sawyer Robertson is a huge reason why you need to talk about it. And at number 1, Sam Levitt. Look, Cam Scatteroo did a ton for Arizona State last year. But having said that, I just believe Kenny Dillingham said it perfectly. Going into the playoff, they had only lost one game with their starting quarterback because the other game they lost, he was hurt. He's that important to that football team. Cam Scatteroo got all the publicity, and he should have. But Sam Levitt is a great quarterback. Took a gigantic step forward. Has to work on a little bit more accuracy. I understand. But again, the first year at the school, first year starting, I think he's going to take another leap forward, but I believe he's the best quarterback in this conference right now. There is competition. It's not like the separation of these quarterbacks are, Sam Levitt 1 and a big jump to 2 and to 3. No, basically from about 8 down to 1, it's pretty close, but you got to rank them somewhere. And this is where I ranked them as of right now. So this could change. Obviously, during the season, we're going to see it change. But I like where this ranking is, these rankings that I put together right now. Get in the comments section, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me where you think that I was wrong, right, everything in between. So I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you as always. I will talk to you guys soon. You guys have a good one.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.